About small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. You're listening to Get Down to Business. I'm your host, Shalom Klein, and as promised, I'm here in studio with Linda Nicholls of IMC Solutions, and they are creating services providing the best of both worlds, expert search and recruiting techniques with the non-competitive nature of internal recruiting. It's an honor to have you here in studio, Linda. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and I know our listeners are as well. Linda, welcome to Get Down to Business.
Shalom. Thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So, Linda, IMC Solutions, how long have you been around?
25 years.
25 years. And I know you've been in this industry, and this is not just a job for you, but I know you put your heart and soul into it. And I know you have a lot of tips for our listeners. But how did you get into the world of recruiting and into this galaxy of HR, if you want to call it that?
Well, that's a great question. I'm one of the few people who I know chose this profession. I think it really was born out of my love for people, my love for being creative, for matchmaking, and for helping people move along in their careers and helping to serve businesses.
And you just heard from Igor from Mr. Floor. I understand that you were an interior designer before, decorator before getting into this world of recruiting.
I wasn't happy, but I've been happy for 25 years as a recruiter.
Ever since.
That's right.
So you've learned to be an expert recruiter. And for our listeners that may not be familiar with the term, what does a recruiter do that they can't do themselves?
That's a great question. Recruiters know how to dissect a job description or job requirement. They know how to dissect resumes, skills, and talents that an individual may have, and they know how to match them together. Now, in this current market with the internet, searching for candidates is very, very complex. We can reach more people than we could many years ago. That's the great thing. Sifting through more is the more time-consuming. So to be a successful recruiter, you really have to know how to zero in on what's absolutely essential to the client in their job description and know how to find those skills in candidates.
So on many levels, you are a matchmaker, connecting the worlds between resumes and job descriptions, but you also know how to track and cultivate talents, because I'm sure you see a lot of names. You've probably seen more resumes than anybody that I know.
Yes.
And you know what looks good and what looks bad, but you're looking for the good ones.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So do you have this particular niche that you focus on?
Yes, we have two strong verticals, placing human resource and recruiting professionals and placing sales professionals. However, over the years, we have placed people in virtually every professional level, IT, engineering, accounting, finance, operations, anything that is considered at the professional level. We don't do medical. We don't do industrial stuff.
So you know what you're good at. You know what areas I'm sure you can refer to another group, another recruiter, which is great. And of course, before the end of the segment, we'll make sure that our listeners can get a hold of you. And Linda, we'll be having you back on to continue the conversation, because I have a hunch we won't be able to squeeze it all in as much as I would like. But what tips do you have for employers when they are searching for a new hire?
Well, the number one criteria is to really know what you're looking for. Have a good job description, know what your talent gaps are so that you can explain those to a recruiter.
Talent gaps meaning within the organization. Where are you looking to bring in somebody new?
Right. Well, and really know what skills that you're really missing right now. If you don't have a solid job description, you can't set anybody on the path to go find that talent. So you have to have that squared away in your mind. Then you have to decide, what are the skills that I absolutely have to have, and where can I flex? If you have 10 requirements and they're all must-haves, you might not find that all in one human being.
That might be the dream candidate, but that dream might not exist in the real world.
That is
so that's really important. And, people talk a lot about unemployment, and people talk about how there are no jobs. You and I both know that there are jobs that are out there that are sitting for so long, waiting to be filled. And as much as job seekers need to sell potential employers on their skill sets, often companies need to sell on who they are. So tell us a little, maybe some of the secret tips, maybe not so secret after this, after our conversation, but secret tips for how a company can best sell their culture and their experience at their organization?
Well, in the current market, there actually is quite a war for talent for specific types of positions: IT, engineering, sales. Those are all hot candidates. If you are not going to try to convince a candidate why they should come to work for your company, they'll go and take the offer from a company who has done that. So you can't just sit there and grill a candidate. You've got to woo them.
And you've mentioned that the information is flowing more quickly than it ever has, likely in your 25 years in the world of recruiting, with LinkedIn and with so many other tools like Indeed. There's resumes flying everywhere, and you have to assume, I guess, companies have to assume that the person that they're talking to probably is talking to 5 other companies as well.
Absolutely. Even passive candidates are very selectively out there looking, and they will contact you if they're interested in what you have to say and how your company presents itself. And if they're not, you won't be able to reach them.
We're chatting with Linda Nicholls of IMC Solutions. Linda, it sounds like being a recruiter keeps you on your toes because you need to constantly be on the lookout for good people, but also help companies. And as you said, I like this. You're sort of the connector between the worlds of resumes and job descriptions, which is something I've said on this program now for the past 2 years. And it's great to hear your advice and hear that you're actually doing that every single day. But everybody talks about the interviewing process. What tips do you have for employers to improve the interviewing process so they don't scare people away?
Well, first they have to have their interviewing team in place, and those people have to be committed to dedicating the time that it takes to interview candidates. It is time consuming, we understand it, but if interviews get delayed and candidates get delayed and the process goes on for days or even weeks, you may lose them.
So it's not like you see sometimes on TV or in the movies where you see the big, what's his name from The Simpsons, Mr. Burns sitting back on a desk smoking a cigar and bossing his people around. It's a competitive marketplace, especially as you mentioned in certain industries. It's an interviewing process can't just be, hey, you're hired, you're fired. Mr. Trump likes to use the words "you're fired." These days, it's constantly the hunt for talent.
Absolutely, the hunt for talent, and move quickly.
So tell us a little bit about how you suggest an employer communicating or providing feedback with a recruiter. How should that relationship exist?
It has to be an even flow of communication, questioning, probing, listening, providing feedback. If I'm sending you a resume, I need to know, do you like this person? Do you want to interview this person? When you've interviewed the person, I need feedback. I need to know whether you were thumbs up, thumbs down, and why. Because if I don't know why, I can't refine our methods of searching and produce better candidates. So all recruiters want to communicate with their client, whether it's pro or con. When we're all on the same page, we achieve a successful hire for you.
You're listening to Get Down to Business. I'm talking with Linda Nicholls of IMC Solutions, providing some great tips for employers on how to work best with a recruiter, how to hire more efficiently. And as many of our listeners know, I'm commonly referred to as Mr. Networker, not to be confused with Mr. Floor, who you heard on earlier in the program. But I talk to a lot of employers and a lot of job seekers, and I agree communication is key. I hear from job seekers occasionally, they reach out to me and they're looking for employment, and I may have made that connection for them. They never tell me about it. And that's not fair to me. I want to help you. I want to make sure that it's working. And I talk to employers that say, I need this and this dream person yesterday. And I do my best at trying to create the connection. And it may have worked exceptionally well, but they don't tell me, so I don't know how I can help again in the future. So it's a tough world. Linda, we're slowly running out of time, but I'm curious, really quickly, do you think that the world of recruiting has changed much over the past 25 years?
Completely.
But the foundation, has it stayed the same?
The foundation is the same. The methods of communicating and reaching candidates is completely different. Email, voicemail, texting, social media, it's all changed the game from the day when you could pick up the phone and talk to somebody.
As I said, Linda, it sounds like being a recruiter has you on your toes.
Absolutely.
So I want to encourage our listeners to get a hold of you, and it sounds like they could reach you one of so many different ways. But let's start with your website so people can learn more. How can people find you online?
Sure. Our website is www.imcsolutions.com.
And how can people give you a call?
Give me a call. I love talking to people. 630-637-6200.
Fantastic. IMC Solutions, a great resource for hiring. In the future, we'll talk a little bit about about your tips for folks in transition, which I know you have a lot to say on that as well. You'll be hearing Linda Nicholls back on Get Down to Business real soon. You're listening to the show that's all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Don't touch that dial.
The battle for the